Win, lose, or draw, we refuse to cave to power brokers even in the face of seemingly impossible odds. We continue to stand tall for a reason, the pursuit of truth in the face of giants. Our unwillingness to compromise our values, no matter the odds or the outcome, reflects a simple conviction that standing up for the truth and what is right matters. If the current laws protect legacy media in this manner, perhaps it's up to us to ignite that change. Brian Friedman. Hello and welcome back to this channel. That was a quote that was given to People magazine by Brian Friedman after the New York Times decided to file a lawsuit against the Wayfarer people for, you'll never guess, $150,000. Bruh, be serious. You don't need that $150,000. What is you doing? We are going to get into the New York Times filing against Wayfarer, as well as Kevin Fritz is back in the docket about the hearing tomorrow, and we're just going to dive right in. Okay, if you're ready, I'm ready. Grab your emotional support lip gloss. Today I have e.l.f., the shimmer gloss that I've been using and kind of obsessed with, and you are in frame with Mandy Magnan. Before we get into the filings here, there's a couple I just want to go over with you. The Unbothered King is back. Yes, Justin Baldoni is back at LAX, and he's letting everyone know that he's doing wonderful. And of course, Miss Blake Lively had to let everyone know that she's doing wonderfuler than Justin Baldoni. And not only is he doing wonderful, he wants us to know that he is still taking the high road, and all of that stuff about Taylor Swift, the thing that I like to call a distraction. And what I've been saying was a distraction and a big rumor and not true and a planted story the entire time is confirmed by the Mr. Unbothered King himself. This was obtained by TMZ at the LAX.
Justin, how you holding up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing nicely, doing wonderful.
Yeah, very great. You're doing wonderful?
Got a lot of love, man. Got a lot of love.
You're holding up okay, man?
Yeah, man.
Look, you seem to be taking the high road, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Well, we always try to do, man.
All right.
Always try to do.
Listen,
man. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Last question. Let me ask you this. The judge dismissed your countersuit. What's next for you?
We're not allowed to discuss that right now, man. We can't discuss that for you. You all right?
I'm good.
Thank you, man. We're gonna cut off this call. Can't talk about it, but hey.
But listen, but you're okay though, taking the high road here. Positive.
Very positive.
Very positive.
Can't talk
all right,
stuff like that. You know
all right. I'm just doing my job.
Listen.
Justin, last question. Look, listen. Do you know anything about the guy who tried to serve at Taylor Swift, Travis's house? Know nothing about it?
I'm the greatest in the world.
All right, buddy. Thanks. Justin, best of luck, man. Thank you. Hey, keep stay the high road. Take the high road. Keeping positive. All right, man. Thank you.
He is looking so good with the truth behind him and all of us and his faith for sure. He must have a great support team. And yeah, he just looked like the Unbothered King, you know, and he was laughing and shaking his head at the whole Taylor Swift, like, come on, that was mayhem, okay? But then once he posted that and that kind of blew up, I think 2 days ago that he was seen there, well then of course, Miss Blake Lively has to let us know just how much more wonderfuler she's doing. You have Miss Blake Lively here at Disney in Orlando, which was very interesting. Just in the caption, I thought was kind of strange. And this was just brought to my attention by someone because it does say, we're so grateful to have had that experience of being so inspired and connected as a family in those magical worlds you've built. What family? Where is your man's? Because I know he's out here doing interviews saying how he told you to shut the F off or shut the F up or whatever it was. I know he's out here not acting like the family man that you're out here doing, you know what I'm saying? That was just kind of strange. And then you also have her here showing off her baking. how she baked a cake with this teddy bear. And let me just get to it. I've lost it here. I don't want to spend too much time on this. But yeah, so she's baked this cake. I mean, anything to do to be busy. And of course, the tags. I mean, she is an at-her, okay? She ats everybody, okay? And the timing of Blake Lively always posting now always comes when there's something else happening in litigation that isn't in her favor. Like, I'm convinced. Like, at this point, whenever she goes on a crash out in her stories, or whenever she does post, which now is a lot more rare, of course, it's always like following something else or in someone else's shadows. And in this case, I feel like it was Justin Baldoni saying how wonderful he was, how he's doing, he's taking the high road, da-da-da-da-da. And then like Blake Lively posts about her being super incognito in Orlando and how it was like the best family time. But someone's missing from that family, who I think is very important, because while you're out here being the mom, your husband's over here dragging you. It's like, and doing some weird stuff. We all saw that now on the late night talk show. Okay. But like Brian Freeman said, our unwillingness to compromise our values, no matter the odds or the outcome, reflects a simple conviction that standing up for the truth and what is right matters. It's what matters, okay? Always, always, always stand up for the truth, stand up for what matters, and never, never be willing to compromise on your values, no matter the odds or the outcome against you. I love this statement. I think it is so powerful. I think maybe they're gearing up to maybe settle with the New York Times instead of fight it, because these people are only looking for $150,000. At first, I thought it was 1.5 million. And then I was like, ain't no way, New York Times, you need this money. And don't you know how to take the win? That's why I said the other day, like, y'all should have just taken the win. Because now, if they do choose to go through litigation with you and drag this out, they're going to bring up the metadata. They're going to bring up people for depositions and see how long you guys were colluding. They're going to call for your phone records, your text messages. Are you willing, Megan Twohey, to do that? Huh? You're so sure you have the truth by your side? You're so sure you only wrote that article based on the CRD complaint? You're so sure y'all weren't colluding in October and November before the CRD complaint even became a thing? We're going to get the truth. And I hope they are willing to fight, and I hope they don't settle, because I want the world to know. I want it published in the records what y'all did to Justin and the innocent people in the Wayfarer parties. This is the New York Times Company versus Wayfarer Studios. I thought it was going to be a lot longer with like more stuff in it, to be honest. It's only 11 pages. We'll see where this goes, but I feel like at this point, the New York Times should have just taken their win and walked away, knowing by the grace of Judge Lyman and nobody else, definitely not the public, was on their side. Nobody agrees that they should have been dismissed. Nobody agrees that Ryan Reynolds or Leslie Sloan should have been dismissed. That call was one of the worst calls I've seen in this case this entire time. So the fact that they're re-bringing this up to get $150,000, the New York Times, are you hurting that bad? I know Donald Trump has his foot on your neck right now. He's trying to sue y'all for way more, but this is just kind of petty, I feel like. But anyway, the trial is to be held in New York County, New York. And I hope Wayfarer fight this, and I hope we get the text messages. I hope we get the phone logs between Megan Twohey and Blake Lively. I hope Stephanie motherfucking Jones is in there. I hope we get everything. I hope everyone that wronged Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, Steve Soritz, and all of the Wayfarer people, including Jennifer Abel, Melissa Nathan, and Jed Wallace, I hope you all go down, okay? Down, down, down. You need to be held accountable. So I don't know what they're going to do here, if they're just going to like call it a day and write a check. because at the end of the day, they still have so many other litigations to go through. And this one isn't, it is what it is. It's really pennies at the end of the day from what Blake Lively is asking for in the $1 million range. But I hope it doesn't. I hope they fight it. And I hope we get evidence submitted of what they actually did. Because we all know, and the metadata doesn't lie, okay? Y'all were creating that website all the way back in October. Don't lie now, okay? How dare you? Plaintiff, the New York Times Company, by and through its attorneys, brings this complaint against defendant Wayfarer Studios, LLC, and alleges as follows. 1. That this is an action brought pursuant to New York Civil Rights Law 70A and 76A to recover costs, fees, and expenses incurred by the Times in the defense of a defamation action brought by Wayfarer and parties associated with Wayfarer. 2. Strategic lawsuits against public participation, the SLAPP suits, are lawsuits used to inhibit the exercise of free speech and harass publishers by forcing them to expend time and resources on baseless litigation. Okay, I don't think it was baseless, and I still don't. In my very humble opinion, Okay. New York's anti-SLAPP offers redress to targets of SLAPP suits. On November 10th, 2020, New York's governor signed Assembly Bill 5991A into law, substantially expanding New York's existing anti-SLAPP law to provide greater protections to publishers against frivolous litigation intended to silence their exercise of the rights of free speech and petition about matters of public interest. Under New York's anti-SLAPP law, defendants in lawsuits involving public petition and participation may now file an action to recover damages, including costs and attorney fees, from any person who commenced or continued such an action without a substantial basis in fact and law. The anti-SLAPP law also provides for compensatory and punitive damages against plaintiffs who, like Wayfarer, commence or continue meritless legal claims for the purpose of harassing, intimidating, punishing, or otherwise maliciously inhibiting the free exercise of speech. They're harassing, intimidating, and punishing. Oh my gosh. The anti-SLAPP law applies to lawsuits targeting any communications in a place open to the public or a public forum in connection with an issue of public interest, or any other lawful conduct in furtherance of the exercise of the constitutional right of free speech in connection with an issue of public interest, with the term public interest defined broadly to mean any subject other than a purely private matter. It is now well established that news coverage of matters of public interest fall within the scope of the law. It goes into who the parties are. We already know who that is. The Wayfarer defendants, Blake Lively, the New York Times, blah, blah, 70 motherfucking Jones, all those Leslie Sloan, Ryan Reynolds. Then it goes into the jurisdiction and venue. The basis of this claim is that the Wayfarer tortiously commenced and continued a SLAPP suit against the Times. Because the Times' principal business is in New York County, venue is also proper because Wayfarer tortiously commenced and continued the SLAPP suit that is the basis of this claim in New York County. On December 21st, 2024, the Times published a news article authored by Megan Twohey, Mike McIntyre, and Juliet Tate titled, "We Can Bury Anyone Inside a Hollywood Smear Machine," and the accompanying video. The article and video reported on a sexual harassment and workplace retaliation complaint filed by actor Blake Lively with the California Civil Rights Department in connection with her work on the film It Ends With Us, which was produced by Wayfarer. Now, they say that the article and the video was reporting on only the CRD. Already I can see that that's a lie. Or they're, twisting the truth, however you want to say it. That's not the full truth. Because Megan Twohey herself has come out and said that she went through thousands of pages of text messages. Well, which is it? You were given illegal text messages obtained by a fake lawsuit and a sham subpoena, and you went through all of the text messages yourself to write this story, or was it based on the CRD complaint? And the CRD complaint, first of all, cherry-picked text messages and didn't even give the full context. So either you went through all of the actual text messages and cherry-picked them to fit this narrative on this hot piece you wanted to write right before Christmas, or they were given to you like that? And I want answers. Miss Lively filed the CRD complaint against Justin Baldoni, who directed and starred in the film and co-funded Wayfarer, and Jamie Heath, Wayfarer's CEO and the film's lead producer. The CRD complaint incorporated documents including text messages and email communications between Mr. Baldoni, his publicist, Jennifer Abel, and a crisis PR specialist, Melissa Nathan. The article and video explicitly relied on and cited to the CRD complaint and the documents referenced therein to report on Miss Lively's allegations that Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath engaged on misconduct on the set of the film, and that Mr. Baldoni subsequently engaged Miss Nathan to tarnish Lively's reputation. On December 31st, 2024, Wayfarer and its affiliates filed suit against the Times in California state court for defamation and false light arising out of the publications of the article. This complaint was never served. Funny how that's the first time they've ever brought this up, even in the cases in the New York. Right now, the Lively versus Wayfarer, this was never brought up, that the complaint was never served. Okay, they're actually refiling, trying to get out of it and get a final judgment from Judge Lyman. So that was never talked about before. That was the first time I ever served that they never got the complaint served to them. On January 16th, 2025, Wayfarer, along with Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, Mr. Saritz, It Ends With Us Movie LLC, Miss Nathan, the Agency Group LLC, and Miss Abel filed a lawsuit against Miss Lively, Ryan Reynolds, Leslie Sloan, and Vision PR Inc. in the United States Court for the Southern District of New York. On January 30th, 2025, the action was consolidated with Miss Lively's lawsuit. The consolidated action. Wayfarer and its affiliates did not originally name the Times as a party in this case, but on January 31st, 2025, Wayfarer and its affiliates filed an amended complaint naming the Times as a defendant in the consolidated action. In the amended complaint, Wayfarer and its affiliates asserted 4 causes of action against the Time. First, Wayfarer and its affiliates asserted a claim for defamation against the Time for reporting that it had engaged in, permitted, and or failed to prevent sexually inappropriate conduct towards Lively. Which is so true, because if you went through all the texts, Megan Toohey, okay, your time isn't done yet, okay? I can't believe y'all are bringing this back up. This is so wild, okay? Next, Wayfarer and its affiliates asserted a claim for false light against the Time. The false light claim was based on the same statements as the defamation claim. Finally, the amended complaint asserted claims for promissory fraud and breach of implied contract against the Time. Those claims were based on a December 20th email from the Times seeking comment from Wayfarer and its affiliates before publication of the article. The email requested that they provide the Times with a response by noon on December 21st. The Times published the article at 10:11 on December 21st, only after receiving comment from the attorney for Wayfarer and its affiliates. The amended complaint tried to construe the email as promising that the article would not be published before noon on December 21st. And y'all still did it, okay? Still did it. On February 28th, the Times filed a motion to dismiss the amended complaint with prejudice. Following briefing on June 9th, the district court granted the Times motion and dismissed all claims against it with prejudice. It is clear from the district court's opinion that the claims against the Times lacked in any basis in fact and law. Well, I'm pretty sure the judges said they argued it wrong, like they should have went for different things, but now they have the opportunity to bring this fight to like really address the New York Times for what they did, because it started with Megan Toohey. Well, I mean, it started with Stephanie motherfucking Jones and Blake Lively and Leslie Sloan, but they didn't have to do this. This news story was so crazy. Like the day after the CRD complaint, they were able to draft up that whole story and have it ready. You know, we might have been born at night, but we weren't born last night. That's for dang sure. Okay, Megan Toohey. Preliminarily, the district court held that New York law applied to the defamation of false light claims against the Times. The district court noted that the statements emanated from the New York where the Times is located, and that decisively, New York has a strong policy interest in regulating the conduct of its citizens and its media. First, the district court dismissed the defamation claim against the Times. As an initial matter, it held that any statements in the article and video reporting on the alleged sexual misconduct experienced by Lively were not actionable because they were based on the CRD complaint and therefore were subject to New York's fair reporting privilege. and separately were not plausibly made with actual malice. It was pretty friggin' one-sided, okay? And it wasn't based in any fact or truth, okay? That's for dang sure. I mean, that article was horrible. As for the Times statements about the smear campaign, the district court found to the extent they fell outside the privilege because they relied upon communications not included in the CRD complaint. They were not plausibly made with actual malice. The district court specifically noted that the CRD complaint and article contained numerous messages and documents strongly suggesting the Wayfarer parties did spread negative stories about Lively, and that a reader of those messages would have little doubt that the Wayfarer parties engaged in a smear campaign. That was a long time ago. Do you know how much stuff has come out since June? That's why I feel like the dismissal with prejudice was so wild. The district court rejected the idea that actual malice was established by certain text messages that the Time allegedly saw, and suggested that the negative publicity about Lively was coming from sources other than Baldoni and his associates. Those texts did not overcome the reasonable inferences to be drawn from the text indicating there was a smear campaign, even if others on their own attacked Lively online. The district court also noted that the article's inclusion of additional context favoring Baldoni and the prominent incorporation of the plaintiff's denials cut against an interference of actual malice. In sum, the amended complaint failed to adequately plead multiple necessary elements of a defamation claim. Second, applying New York law, the district court dismissed the false light claim because the state does not recognize this cause of action. Finally, the district court dismissed the promissory fraud and breach of implied contract claims, holding that they were meritless. The district court found that no contract existed and that the email at most was a promise that Wayfarer and its affiliates had until noon to provide comment on the reporting. As the district court noted, their lawyer did just that, and the statements were included in the article. The Times incurred not less than $150,000 in legal fees and costs for defending against the lawsuit, which had no basis in law or fact. Then they go into the New York anti-SLAPP law, that it provides in an action involving public petition and participation, a prevailing defendant shall recover damages, including costs and attorney fees, from any person who commenced or continued such action. Costs and attorney fees shall be recovered upon a demonstration that the action was commenced or continued without a substantial basis in fact and law, and could not be supported by a substantial argument for the extension, modification, or reversal of existing law. The lawsuit against the Times was an action involving public petition and participation against New York civil rights law. It was based on a news article published by the Time, communications in a public forum in connection with an issue of public interest, and lawful conduct in furtherance of the exercise of the constitutional right of free speech in connection with an issue of public interest. The district court's opinion made clear that Wayfarer and its affiliates both commenced and continued the lawsuit against the Times without a substantial basis in fact and law. Under such circumstances, New York's anti-SLAPP law requires that the Times be awarded its costs and attorney fees and such other compensatory damages as the court deems just and proper. Let's just go through some facts about the New York Times, okay? The New York Times, the video they keep referencing that Megan Twohey, made, the video that she released about this statement, the metadata shows that that video was started being made on December 16th and on December 18th, days before the CRD complaint was filed. Okay, let's just look at some dates. Let's start back on August 21st when Jen Abel, who had already talked to Stephanie motherfucking Jones, the CEO, and they said that she would be able to take her phone number with her and everything was Gucci and she could leave, went into work on one of her last days after giving weeks in advance notice and was cornered, brought into a room by security, tech dudes, and lawyers, and searched all of her equipment to where they said they didn't find nothing because they thought that she was stealing a bunch of stuff, took her phone, escorted her out of the building. That in itself, disgusting, okay? They took her phone on this day, and Stephanie motherfucking Jones went through Stephanie Jones's phone, saw text messages, and knew right away, you know who would like this? Blake Lively and Leslie Sloan. called Leslie Sloan, in my opinion, told her, hey girl, I know we're not really friends and we work on the other side of the team, but you know what? F that hoe and F Justin Baldoni, and I got something for you. Okay, here you go. Sent her some text messages. It gets to Blake Lively. Leslie Sloan calls Melissa Nathan on August 21st and says, I seen your text messages. Be prepared to be sued. September 27th, a month goes by, and the Van Zandt fake lawsuit is started. Blake Lively with her husband, Ryan Reynolds, create a fake lawsuit using their Delaware inactive shell company called Van Zandt to create a fake lawsuit to get a sham subpoena from the court in order to use otherwise illegally obtained text messages for publication. Okay, nothing happened in that lawsuit. They didn't even ask for anything to happen in that lawsuit because all they wanted it was for the text messages that they already knew were there that could somehow create this narrative because Blake Lively couldn't go 2 weeks with bad PR. October 31st, metadata shows that the New York Times was working on this piece where there's images that say smear Justin. On November 8th, just a few days later, Blake's ex-bestie, Taylor Swift, was seen hanging out with Ronan Farrow. That was scrubbed from the internet and only Candace Owens was able to get off some undercover internet source. Now, Ronan has come out and said that's all fluff and it wasn't nothing and da-da-da-da-da, but okay. December 16th and 18th, there's metadata that shows that the New York Times article was already being created, as well as the video that Megan Twohey put out. So how are you already working on this when the CRD hasn't been filed yet? How do you have it? How do you have the text messages? How are you working on this article since October 31st and then even scratch that since December 16th if the CRD file isn't done yet, okay? Then you have on December 19th, Van Zandt files a discontinuance of their fake lawsuit. With nothing being done in the court system, they withdraw their fake lawsuit that they got from their sham subpoena. Then on December 20th, the next day, okay, so the New York Times was working on this December 16th, 18th, the 19th, Van Zandt pulls their fake lawsuit, and the next day, Blake files her CRD complaint. And now you're telling me that CRD complaint was filed on the 20th, and on the 21st, within 24 hours, the New York Times was able to put that crafty little story together of We Can Bury Anyone? Nah, not fooling me. No, ma'am, I don't think so. Here is an example of the metadata that's been found, and if you can see at the top of the graphics that I put at the top, you can see right in the middle where it says News Graphics 2024 December 16th. Lively Topper. Okay, Lively Topper December 16th. Hello. So you weren't just going off this already filed CRD complaint. You bunch of liar, pants on fire. And I hope it comes down. I hope it all comes out. Oh, and Megan Twohey, we're going to get into it right now.
The movie It Ends With Us, starring Blake Lively, was a huge box office hit, even as rumors spread of turmoil behind the scenes. In a legal complaint Lively filed on Friday, private text messages and other documents that we've obtained reveal what really happened.
Yes, private text messages, Megan Twohey. Private text messages. And she claims it's all from the CRD, but if it was from the CRD, girl, once again, how were you working on it days before? Like this video that was done days before the story came out.
Campaign to tarnish Lively after she alleged that Justin Baldoni, her co-star and director, and Jamie Heath, the producer, had engaged in misconduct while shooting the film, a story about breaking the generational cycle of domestic violence. Among other allegations, Lively claimed that Baldoni had engaged in improvised and unwanted kissing and made
I'm sure it was very unwanted.
sexual comments to her, and that Mr. Heath had shown her pictures of his wife naked, and that he had watched her while she was topless getting makeup removed, even as she...
He watched her as she was topless. Funny how all of these things change now. First, Jamie Heath showed Blake Lively videos of pornography, and now obviously it's a birthing video, and now it's, oh, he watched her as she was topless.
She had asked him to look away. She had taken her complaints to the film studio, and the men agreed to bring in a full-time intimacy coordinator.
That's a lie. They already had multiple intimacy coordinators all the way in pre-production. So again, you're lying. You didn't even look into it. There was already intimacy coordinators well in advance of going to camera. They didn't just bring in an intimacy coordinator after she complained about it.
Outside producer and put in place other protections. They also agreed in writing not to retaliate against her. But as the release of the movie approached, they hired a crisis PR manager who orchestrated a smear campaign against Lively. The PR expert, Melissa Nathan, has represented clients including Johnny Depp and the rapper Drake.
Classic to bring up Johnny Depp and Drake, okay? Classic, Megan, classic. And again, if you really looked into the text messages and actually read them, okay, read them verbatim, you would see that they were defending themselves, trying to counter themselves. Do you think that anyone doing a smear campaign would talk so kindly about their opposing party? They didn't say like, let's get her, blah, 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 blah. There was nothing. The only insult that Justin Baldoni, the only shade he threw towards Blake Lively was, she is a person who always thinks she's right.
Nathan came up with a document spelling out her plans, but Baldoni wanted more. A publicist who had already been working with Baldoni wrote to Nathan, he wants to feel like she can be buried. You know we can bury anyone, Nathan wrote, but I can't write that to him. In one message to the publicist, Nathan indicated that she had gotten allegations against Baldoni removed from articles. He doesn't realize how lucky he is right now. The whispering in the ear, the sexual connotations, she wrote. I mean, there's just so much. At the same time, Nathan assembled a team that could dominate social media through full social account takedowns by starting threads of theories and generally working to change the narrative.
It's impossible to know how much they planted. Right. It's also impossible to know how much they didn't. Okay? Because why aren't you reading the text messages where Justin Baldoni is continually making sure that it's not them? It's not our team, is it? Tell me this isn't our team. I mean, Megan, too, if you want to go toe-to-toe on text messages, baby, just let me know, okay? Because I've read them many times.
Possible to know how much they planted and how much of it was originating organically. Whatever the
100%
case,
organic.
They seized on it and amplified it. Sony, the film distributor, had signed off on a promotion plan that instructed the cast to focus not on domestic violence, but on the uplifting message of the film.
It Ends With Us is in theaters now, so grab your friends, wear your florals, and head out to see it.
What they didn't do was tell Blake Lively to start selling alcohol and hair care products. What they didn't do was tell her to make a mockery of domestic violence. What they didn't do was tell her to treat this like a summer comedy blockbuster.
Some online observers said was tone deaf. The team discussed how online criticisms of Miss Lively could help narrative-wise. Emails referred to social manipulation and proactive fan posting. Text messages cited efforts to amplify and boost online content that was...
Yes, that was favorable to Justin Baldoni. This is regular PR. This is regular crisis management. And again, still waiting on Blake Lively's text messages with Leslie Sloan. Still waiting on Blake Lively's text messages with Stephanie motherfucking Jones. Still waiting with her text messages from her B613.
Was critical of Lively and favorable to Baldoni. And within days, they were talking about how the online conversation had shifted. In one message to the publicist, Nathan wrote, "Socials are really, really ramping up in his favor. She must be furious." It's actually sad because it just shows you have people really want to hate on women. The shift in
Oh, Megan Twohey loved that comment. Of course. Me too.
online sentiment was unusual enough that a digital marketing consultant produced a report that August that concluded that Lively was being subjected to a targeted multi-channel online attack. In a statement, a lawyer for Baldoni, the studio, and all its representatives denied the allegations. There are a variety of methods that have long been used to shape public opinion about celebrities. Gossip columns, tabloids, strategic interviews. But this story reveals a new playbook for waging a far-reaching and largely undetectable smear campaign in the digital age.
If it was so untraceable, you seem to have done it, right, Megan Twohey? Pretty easy peasy within 24 hours, right? CRD complaint gets filed on the 20th. Okay, you have what, less than 24 hours to go through it and break it down, and what you cited was news, right? It was the truth. Something's fishy in the water. I don't believe you. I don't believe you, Megan Twohey. I don't believe you, Blake Lively. I don't believe you, Leslie Sloans. And I definitely don't believe you, Stephanie motherfucking Jones. Y'all women have been working on this for a long time. Bitter, revengeful. And I know Megan Twohey just wanted to get a new big hit piece after her Me Too movement. Well, guess what? You messed with the wrong one, okay? Because Justin Baldoni... Where are the people coming out in support? Where are the people being like, you know what? Yeah, he is a mean guy. He's bad. He's a monster. You think after decades in the industry, working with thousands and thousands and thousands of people, there would be something. There would be a train. There would be a line of people waiting, like there was when it hit in August about Blake Lively's cruel and mean behavior. Everything that came out against Blake Lively was all from her own mouth, her own interviews, her own past behavior, her current behavior during the PR tour, if it ends with us. Nothing was lies. Nothing was fabricated. It was all based in her own actions and truth, except the past wasn't so friendly and wasn't so kind to Miss Blake Lively, while the stardom, light, and the fame was hitting down on her this time, because guess what? Karma is a bitch. And it hit her real good, and she couldn't handle her own behavior, her own actions. And instead of looking in the mirror, looking inward, how can I be better? How can I be of service to others? What can I do different? How can I be a better person, a better leader, a better woman, a better artist? She blamed Wayfarer and Justin Baldoni and used real women's pain, weaponized real women's trauma, lived experiences that we go through every day, used that to try to rebrand herself and literally destroy these people's lives so that she can end up on the top. Well, it's not going to work. And Megan Twohey and the New York Times, I hope Wayfarer fight you. I know it's just $150,000 that you're asking for, right? But I hope they get down to the bottom of all of this and they disclose exactly how despicable you guys were and your part in colluding in this BS freaking story. Okay, that happened. let's move on because Mr. Kevin Fritz-tastic, yes, Mr. Kevin Fritz, our favorite lawyer, is back and he is responding. There is a hearing tomorrow, okay? They didn't need to respond, but he did the dang thing, and it is chef's kiss. Let's go over it. Mr. Kevin Fritz-tastic. Now, there are a couple of things that we can't see because they're under seal. So there's a couple attachments under seal as well as also his declaration. But I think this letter sums it up just nicely. Okay, here we go. So as you know, the Wayfarer people put in a ruling for a judgment on the pleadings. They're asking the judge to go over the pleadings based on law. Before we go any further, these things need to get dismissed because even taking what Blake Lively says as true, it doesn't fall under the law, and this needs to get dismissed, Judge. Well, the Lively people were mad at that. They were peed off. They replied saying, no, we don't want to reply to this. We don't got the time, so either you dismiss this or you extend it and you let me reply later for fact summary. And also, maybe we're going to re-amend. And then everyone was like, what? Re-amend after depositions? After this? What do you mean you don't have time to reply? That's nutty. So then Judge Lyman was like, hold the phone, re-amend, judgment for pleadings, fact summary, what's going on here? We're going to have a hearing, and it's going to be Friday tomorrow at 2. I will put the details on the screen. It will be Friday. Everyone can phone in and listen. Don't record it and don't share it, okay? Okay, but you can take notes. Well, that was their response to it. So I guess Kevin Fritz was like, we already know how these phone conferences are going to go. Judge ain't going to let us say nothing. Like usual, he's going to cut us off. So I'm just going to make it known in the courts, and I'm going to write up this little letter, okay? So it says, we write in response to the letters dated September 30th from Blake Lively concerning the Wayfarer party's motion for judgment on the pleadings and the deadline for service of request to admit. The request to admit, again, is when you have admittance or denial letters. You ask them a bunch of questions, and basically they just say, I admit that's true, or they deny. So I used the example in my last video of, rental, you're renting your space, the person hasn't paid rent, you bring them to court. Well, you would give them a request to admit beforehand. Is it true that you rented this space? Is it true the monthly rent is this much? Is it true that you owe rent from these months? So then when you get to court, you only have to, you're already taking that stuff as true, and then you can just fight on your defenses there outside of it. Anyway, let's get into it. So also, they were asking, Blake Lively's people were like, this is the wrong time. They've waited too long. They've known for 9 months. We don't want to do it, Judge. A bunch of stuff like that, right? The motion is timely. Rule 12C permits a party to move for judgment on the pleadings after the pleadings are closed, but early enough not to delay trial. Pursuant to Rule 12H, a challenge to plaintiff's failure to state a claim is not waived until the close of trial. There is no hard and fast time limit on Rule 12C motion under Rule 12H2. Ms. Lively erroneously argues that the Wayfarer parties sat on their motion for nearly 9 months, and the adjudicating the motion now would only lead to duplicative briefing and waste judicial resources. First, Ms. Lively's operative pleading was not filed 9 months ago, but 2 months ago. Right. Hello. She refiled, guys, with Jed Wallace. Remember her second amended complaint? She filed, she amended, second amended. Okay. In response to the court's dismissal of her claims against Jed Wallace and Street Relations, Ms. Lively was not obligated to amend her pleadings, but nonetheless chose to file her second amended complaint on July 30th. When Ms. Lively opted to supersede her earlier pleadings with the filing of the second amended complaint on July 30th, she knew that the Wayfarer parties were not obligated to file answers thereto for several weeks thereafter, and that upon such filing, and only upon such filing, the Wayfarer parties were entitled to move for a judgment on her pleadings. Indeed, as Ms. Lively recognizes at July 30th, 2025 hearing, In a related proceeding, the Wayfarer parties notified the court that they may seek relief under Rule 12C. If Ms. Lively is now unprepared to oppose the motion, the fault lies with her and her dozens of lawyers that cost millions of dollars. How are they not ready to fight this? Hello, but they were able to file a response. Second, the motion will now reduce briefing on any subsequent dispositive motions and preserve judicial resources. So Blake Lively was trying to say, like, this is just wasting the time's court. We shouldn't be doing this. No, because if there's things in here that can be dismissed now, why bring them all the way to trial, sweetheart? Like, it makes sense, babes. In contending that the question at this stage of the case is not what the pleadings allege, but what the evidence shows. Ms. Lively misconstrues the standard of relief on Rule 12C. Interesting. Does she misconstrue it, or is she trying to twist it all around our shows? Okay. A judgment on the pleadings is appropriate where, with all the reasonable interference drawn in favor of the non-moving party, the non-party moving has failed to allege facts that would give rise to a plausible claim or defense. Here, the motion seeks dismissal based upon purely or predominantly legal issues. 1. Ms. Lively's claims for sexual harassment, retaliation, failure to supervise, and aiding and abetting under California statutes fail to lack under extraterritorial application. 2. Ms. Lively failed to exhaust her administrative remedies with respect to various claims against It Ends With Us movie. 3. Ms. Lively failed to adequately allege retaliation. 4. Ms. Lively's defamation claims are barred by the litigation and or fair reporting privileges. And 5. Ms. Lively failed to allege an underlying tort supporting her civil conspiracy claim. None of those issues require the court to examine anything other than Ms. Lively's second amended complaint and the materials incorporated therein by referencing or integral thereto. Okay, Kevin, you tell it how it is, because, you know, Blake Lively is saying how she wants to reintroduce evidence and she could re-amend, and she's unearthing new evidence and recovering new evidence every day. Tellingly, Ms. Lively does not specify, oh, here it is, it's so funny. Tellingly, Ms. Lively does not specify how any of the voluminous evidence she has uncovered would be properly considered in opposition to the motion or warrant the denial thereof. Stated differently, there is no need for Ms. Lively to scramble to amass evidence from ongoing discovery to oppose the motion, because the motion challenges defects on the face of her own pleadings. Woohoo! Although Ms. Lively notes that she may, yet again, amend her pleadings, she does not explain why she has not done so or why the court should allow any such amendment at this stage of the litigation. And notice how he puts like voluminous evidence and uncovered and scrambled to amass evidence. That's what Blake Lively put in her last letter. Like, I can't scramble now in the middle of depositions to scramble amass evidence. It's like, girl, you have so many lawyers. What are you talking about? If the motion is granted in full or in part, and any such adjudication will reduce the number of Ms. Lively's claims. In turn, even assuming any part subsequently seeks summary judgment, the case will have been properly streamlined, thereby reducing the amount of briefing and evidentiary submissions on any such motion. Thus, judicial resources will be preserved, the very purpose of Rule 12C. Woo! Third, we ain't done. Ms. Lively does not and cannot explain how the adjudication of the motion will delay the trial scheduled to commence on March 9th, 2026. Fact discovery is ongoing, no summary judgment motions have been filed, and the trial is more than 5 months away. Courts have granted 12C motions at procedural stages that are much more advanced than in this case. Then they quote a whole bunch of laws that have done that. Ms. Lively's request for an extension of time to oppose the motion should be denied. In the alternative to her request for dismissal on the motion, Ms. Lively asked for an extension of time from October 10th to October 27th to formally oppose the motion. Ms. Lively seeks the extension for the reasons given above, which appears to be that discovery is ongoing. The court may recall that while discovery was ongoing, the Wayfarer parties were compelled to oppose dispositive motions, as well as numerous motions for sanctions against the Wayfarer parties and their counsel, filed by Miss Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds. Additionally, granting Miss Lively's request would mean that the parties would be briefing the motion close in time to the summary judgment deadline before the court had a chance to narrow the case. The request should be denied. Yeah, y'all remember when some days Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds were submitting like 20 things to the docket every day, and Wayfarer had to stop everything they were doing and reply. Stop everything they were doing and reply. Stop everything they were, and now what? You can't do it when you just have a few depositions left with all them lawyers? The court should amend the case management plan and scheduling order. On September 9th, the court revised the export discovery schedule to provide for the completion of such discovery by November 14th. However, the parties did not propose and the court did not endorse an adjournment to the current November 5th deadline for summary judgment motions. As it stands, summary judgment motions are due before expert discovery may be completed. Accordingly, and given that certain fact discovery has not yet been completed, but is expected to be completed by October 10th, last night the Wayfarer parties proposed the following revisions to the case management plan and scheduling order and are awaiting a response from Miss Lively. That's really good that they put that in there, because I think the judge now is going to be like, okay, so do you guys agree with this new scheduling order or not? Yes or no? And I think it's really good that the judge is having this meet, because it does mean that he's thinking, there's things percolating inside and he's not just outright dismissing whatever the Wayfarer people have to say. So they're trying to move everything to October 24th. That will be the deadline to exchange opinion and expert reports. November 7th, deadline to exchange expert rebuttal reports. December 1st, deadline to complete depositions for experts, and December 15th, deadline to file summary judgment motions. Good cause exists to amend the scheduling order. The proposed schedule will provide the court with sufficient time to resolve the motion, give the parties the opportunity to finish fact discovery prior to exchanging opening expert reports, and allow the parties to complete expert discovery prior to the filing of summary judgment motions. Most importantly, if the majority of Miss Lively's claims are dismissed via the motion, like this motion, the proposed schedule will allow the parties and the court to focus on her few remaining claims in connection with any summary judgment motions and or trial. Moreover, on September 30th, merely 10 days before the current October 10th deadline for opening expert reports, Miss Lively offered a new theory of damages. Whereas Miss Lively's alleged lost profits computation was previously based upon, she has recently added, What is it? The Wayfarer party's expert must now examine that claim. How the heck on September 30th is this girl adding new stuff? Is she still thinking that whatever happened all the way up until September 20th, any loss of damage is due to the ongoing smear campaign or something? I really want to know what's under that redaction. The request to extend the deadline for a request to admit should be denied. On February 3rd, 2025, the court directed in the case management plan and scheduling order that requests to admit shall be served by August 14th. In the parties' joint request to revise part of the scheduling order, no request was made to extend that deadline and no extension was ordered. Now, 8 months after learning the deadline and 6 weeks after the deadline has passed, Miss Lively seeks to extend the expired deadline. However, Miss Lively fails to explain why she did not serve request to admit by the deadline, or how the existence of future depositions prevented her from serving request, especially given that the purpose of request to admit is to narrow factual issues. The request should be denied for failure to demonstrate good cause for the proposed amendment. Respectfully submitted, Kevin Fritztastic. Okay, Kevin Fritz, I see you. And it is important to know that poor Jed Wallace is still waiting to see if he is going to be dismissed for the second time. Okay, he was already dismissed. Blake Lively reamended. We'll see. He's waiting. So right now he's asking the court for a 30-day extension on his deadlines to see if whether or not he has to go through this whole kerfuffle or not, or whether or not he's going to be dismissed. So that was also entered today by Jed Wallace. Tomorrow, Friday, and you already know it's Friday, so I don't know if we're even going to get the Friday night dump that we usually get in the courts of It Ends With Never. But tomorrow, the scheduled phone call is a teleconference. The number is on the screen. You can call in by dialing 855-244-8681. The access code is 230-251-2876, and that is going to be tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I know I shouldn't be getting too overly excited to get my hopes up here, but I do think that the Wayfarer people made some really, really solid arguments on a few things, and I'm just excited to see what's going to happen tomorrow and how the judge is going to treat this. If he wants, maybe he'll just give Blake Lively a week to respond, or, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But that is everything going on today. I hope y'all are doing okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Yesterday when I spoke on Gaza and the Sumed flotilla, unfortunately, all the ships were intercepted. There is one that is almost on the way there. Who knows? It was a very sad and just a heavy-hearted day. And I don't want to make this whole channel about politics, but it's really not about politics. In my heart, it's about humanity. And I'm never going to argue with anyone that thinks that starving children and the suffering of any man, woman, or child is acceptable. No. It's been going on for too long, and it needs to stop. And unfortunately, our government officials and selected leaders are not doing so good. And I think it's because, people are in their pockets. And now scary times with Israel buying TikTok and openly saying that he's going to influence it. And there's just a lot of things that are happening, and I think a lot of people are underreacting. And it's just sad when you see the images every day and we're here and feeling helpless and like, what can we do, right? So I just think it is uncomfortable and it is dark and it is sad to talk about, and that's why I think that we should talk about it, because unfortunately we do have a geographic location different, and that's the only thing that makes us really different, is that, and the privilege that we have to be here. And it's just very sad, and we've come desensitized almost, that it's normal to see these images, that it's televised. Do you know? It's like, what? I don't think so. But, the more I grow and the better I become and the stronger I become, I hope that I'm able to be of service more and truly, truly continue my work and be able to help people. And like Brian Freeman said in the beginning, to stand in truth and use that as my shield and my power. So thank you so much to everyone that, just allowed me to kind of get that off my chest real quick. It was just kind of a heavy day yesterday, and it continues. It continues to be. I'm doing a really big deep dive right now on a few things that I'm going to hopefully bring to you this weekend. And that's also kind of like a wild situation, but I'm going to present it to you, okay? Because I can. So wait for those. Anyway, but I hope you guys are doing good. That's everything. Let me know what you think about the Kevin Fritz letter. I think tomorrow is going to be good, and I will be on here tomorrow letting you know exactly the tea that was spilled in the conference call tomorrow. I wish nothing but the best for all of you. I'm sending you massive love, a lot of prayers, and yeah, let's just continue to keep our hearts open. And like Justin Baldoni said, take the high road and be wonderful. I love you so much. I hope you're having the best day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.